Hi there, I'm Mark Tennant, Director of Inspire to Coach, and welcome to the latest in our little series of inspiration videos. The aim of these little videos really is just to get you thinking about some themes in coaching, quite often related to little stories or little things that might have happened recently, which have just got me thinking about coaching and perhaps might be worth sharing with you. Just recently I was on a course with some coaches and we were talking about what work needs to be done with red players in order to get them to the right level to move to the orange court. And I got talking about the builder and the architect, and I thought you might be interested if I shared this little example with you. When we coach young kids, we take the role of the builder. What we're doing effectively is that we're building tennis players. We need to give them the tools to be able to play the game, and our job is to help them to build their game. So let's just for a moment take the role of the coach being the builder. And just imagine that this is your tennis player. You may be familiar with this analogy that when you're trying to develop tennis players, you're effectively building something like a house, okay? And you will also be familiar, if you know about long-term player development or long-term athlete development, you'll be familiar with the idea that at Red and certainly with young kids, that our role really is to build the foundations. Okay? So the job of the coach working with the young players is to build the tactical and the technical and the physical and the mental to an extent foundations. And on that we can then build the game at orange and at green. And the idea really is with long-term athlete or player development is that the foundations which we build early on will allow us to then be able to add different layers as the players get bigger, older, stronger, technically better and so on. So the job of the builder, the coach, is to build these strong foundations. But it then got me thinking, well, in order to build, an architect is needed so that the builder knows what to build. The builder could go and build a house, but unless he has dimensions and specifications, a picture if you like, of what to build, then there's no guarantee that what the builder builds is A, going to stand up over the long term, and B, perhaps what the buyer or the homeowner eventually is going to want. So it's important that in order for the builder to be able to do his job and to build the right house, that we have an architect who's effectively going to do the design work. And this is where it relates back to coaching, because as I've said, you're the builder, we build tennis skills in our players, but where does the picture of what we're building come from? And that's where it got me thinking that as coaches we not only need to be the builder, but we need to be the architect. So here's the question for you, and something for you to think about. When you go on court and you're working with young kids, do you have a picture for the long term in your mind of what this young player might look like? Let's imagine you're working with a group of 6-year-olds or 7-year-olds. And let's just keep things very simple and imagine perhaps that you're working on a ground stroke forehand and developing a good technical shape for that forehand. That's the work that you're doing in the immediate future, okay, in the short term. But for the longer term development of that player, we need the architect. Because otherwise we can't be sure that the work that we're doing in the short term is actually going to contribute to the bigger long-term future of that player, where we want to end up with not only strong foundations, but we want to add different layers of skills on top of that. So the job for all of us when we're working with young players is to build the strong foundations. But you can't build those foundations unless you've actually got a very clear picture of where what you're doing today is going to contribute to the way that that forehand may look in the future. And if you are really, really smart, then you'll be following a template that you know works. And that's what a builder would do as well. They would follow a template given to them by the architect. They would follow a template which they know works, and at the end of it we end up with a house. As coaches, we all need a template which we know works, and that comes with experience, and it comes with learning, and it comes with attending courses and so on. But our job is to build, but we also need a picture. We need the architect. So next time you go on court, have pictures in your mind of what your 7-year-old should look like at 8 and at 9 and at 10, and know that what you're doing in the short term today is actually going to fit in with the bigger picture, the long-term development, so that we end up with firm foundations and we can then add the other layers on top of it. Hope that makes sense. Hope that gets you thinking a little bit about the builder and the architect next time you're on court.